Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Decentralized Mic. I'm Evan from Polkadot, and today we're diving into one of the most exciting things happening in Web3, and that's the rise of DePIN, Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Networks. And basically, this means that instead of relying on big centralized providers for things like cloud computing, internet access, or even environmental data, DePIN networks are building a future where everyday people can contribute to real world resources and earn rewards. And it's all powered by blockchain. It's all possible because of blockchain. And we have some of the biggest names in DePIN with us here today. So I'm super excited to have Acurast, Silencio, and DePIN Hub. They're all building the next generation of DePIN. And I'll just get right to it and let them introduce themselves. So I thought if we could just first kind of go around the horn, introduce yourself, your project, and give the quick 30-second elevator pitch about your project. Let's start with Daniel from Silencio.
Hey guys, thank you for having me here. So my name is Daniel Ferraro. I'm the CMO of Silencio, as you guys mentioned, and I've been in the Web3 space for over 8 years. Across different verticals and companies. Just to give you like a quick overview, so Silencio, our mission is to democratize data, right? So we empower individuals to use their phones as just decentralized sensors, and we reward the people for it. So right now we have over 1 million users. We're growing super rapidly, and we are the biggest decentralized noise network in the world.
Wow, very impressive. Are you guys the biggest project on top of Peak Network?
We are, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. We'll get into that in a bit. Let's just continue here with Alessandro from Acurast.
Hello, everyone. Also from my side here, Alessandro, co-founder at Acurast. What Acurast does is it allows people to upcycle their mobile devices and turn them into a confidential compute cloud. We have over 65,000 compute units worldwide, spread in more than 130 countries.
Wow.
And ultimately, what our mission is to become the largest compute network on the planet, period. And we're on a perfect track to get there.
Nice. I'm super excited to hear about what you guys are doing and all of the success you've had and what's coming next for Acurast. But first, let's go over to Daniel number 2. That's Daniel from DePIN Hub. You're not number 2, Daniel, but I'll just call you Daniel DePIN Hub. Why don't you introduce yourself?
That sounds good. Yeah, I just want to show here my Acurast device running on my old Android phone. Yes, I'm Daniel. I'm the co-founder of DePIN Hub and Hotspotty. We started in DePIN like 5 years ago with the project Helium, being the first deployer of Helium outside of the US. Then we built a fleet management tool. And then we saw the DePIN ecosystem growing, more projects coming around, like Hivemapper, Demo, and now we have the hundreds. We saw a big problem like, okay, there's so many opportunities in this ecosystem, but it's quite hard to know what's a good project, what's a bad project. And with that, we built DePIN Hub, which you can think about a DeFi Llama plus a CoinMarketCap together, only focus on DePIN. So everything that you need to learn about DePIN, all the opportunities, discounts to buy the devices, to learn more. I have a podcast where I interview founders as well. And the last thing that we're doing is a node as a service. So once you buy a node, you can deploy with us in our own infrastructure as well. So that's like
awesome.
Quick.
Very cool. And it's very cool you have your Acurast node right there. I mean, it's so easy. You can multitask. You can be on a live stream and earn rewards while you do it. I touched on what DePIN is in the intro, but maybe we can just come back to you, Daniel, again for a second. And could you just kind of explain it to maybe someone who's not really familiar with the term? I mean, in my opinion, DePIN is one of the real true use cases of blockchain and Web3. Maybe aside from like DeFi and stable coins, I think DePIN is showing a lot of promise. Can you just dive into it a little bit deeper, please?
Yeah, of course. You can think it's like people-powered infrastructure, or like this, or think about like a Uber, like this people economy 2.0. A lot of projects that they always wanted to do something that decentralized some sort of infrastructure, but there was never think about, okay, there's not the extra incentive that a Web3 added for those projects for those projects to exist. So basically, there's like so many, like hundreds of projects tackling different areas of infrastructure, from wireless networks for serverless infrastructure, for like weather data, for Silencio, for the noise data. So there's a lot of projects that try and figure out, okay, how can actually we collect data and we deploy this kind of infrastructure in a way that's decentralized, secure. But with the addition of the Web3, it was like the crypto incentive actually made all those projects, out the idea of the tokens, for example, wouldn't get to 1 million devices right now. So I like to think about projects that would exist in Web2 world, but then the Web3 is just like the extra cherry on top to make this thing actually expand and grow like crazy.
Awesome. And as I mentioned, it is solving real world problems and use cases. So I guess you could say, particularly sensitive to noise. I have a hard time sleeping, so I have to keep my window shut. I wear earplugs when I go to concerts because I'm very conscious about my hearing and so on. And that's sort of something that Silencio is tapping into and trying to solve and democratize. So maybe Daniel, you could just kind of give us a little bit more detail about what it is you guys are doing and what problems you're solving at Silencio.
Yeah, absolutely. So think about, our empowering, cities with real crowdsourced ethical data, right? So our overall goal is that, whether you are going on the street, or you're going to a hotel, or you're going to a restaurant, you are able to use the Silencio app to make better decisions, right? So it's about decentralizing, the data, and actually helping you make smarter, healthier decisions, right? So, I mean, we started with noise pollution as the main data set, but we're going to expand, right? So, I mean, for now, you can use our app. And of course, I think that the beauty of DePIN, as Daniel was saying, and we have, our own saying is like, DePIN is the Airbnb for infrastructure, right? So what we do is that we leverage the power of smartphones, right? So we don't really need like additional hardware. So we use a device that everyone is using, and we allow the people to really collect the data and be rewarded for it. So at the same time that you're using your phone to, to browse to the best hotel that you want to go with your family, or you want to, you want to go to a restaurant, but you don't know, which are the noisiest part of the city, and you can use it for that. You're also at the same time recording and being rewarded for it. So it's a way that we're gamifying the experience and bringing the best of Web 2 with the benefits of Web 3. That is more or less how I see it.
Got it. And so, for example, I can download Silencio and I can go out into the public and record sound levels with my smartphone. It'll be put up onto the map. Would you mind if I showed the map now? I'll just pull it up here on the screen.
Yeah,
So for example,
absolutely. So very excited
so
about
let's
the
say
new
we're
Explorer we just released.
Awesome. So for example, you can see my screen, right? Yeah, so let's say we were going to be visiting New York City with our family. We wanted a sort of quiet part of town to stay in. I don't know if that's even possible in New York City, but you can you can get very granular here and zoom in to like the street level and see the
so
different noise levels.
There's like two ways to see the Explorer, right? So there you're seeing like the street noise level data, and when you click on it, it's gonna give you more details on it. But as well, you can go and actually check by venues, right? So you can filter by restaurants, you can filter by hotels, and you can filter by the area that you want to go, and it will tell you like when was the last time that was recorded, and we're going to improve that over the next following weeks with other AI data sets. So it's going to become very comprehensive in the way that we collect the data and how you can use it. This is part of one of the latest releases that we have, but as well, you can use it in the Silencio app.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean everything that you see in green, red, or anything that has colors, it means that a user has been walking and measuring. which is the power of Silencio, which I'm very proud of it because we have over 1 million users right now that are actively collecting data all the time.
And the power of DePIN.
Yes,
It's very
exactly.
It's very impressive. I mean, I zoomed out on the map, and it's played like even islands out here, Cape Verde, and so on, to the Canary Islands. I mean, it's
Yeah.
even places into the Sahara Desert have been mapped, which is like very impressive.
Yeah,
So it's,
I mean,
truly is a global.
I think as you said it, right? So it's the ability to leverage, the power of a smartphone and for users to control the data. So privacy is our first principle. So you decide what you want to share or not. We only record decibels data, not sounds or recordings. And yeah, there's actual real world applications that you can use with Silencio.
Very cool. Can I just ask where you got the idea from, or
I love it.
how did this project come about?
So I'm not the founder, I'm the CMO, but it's a funny story because the founders, 3 of them are brothers, right? And they have a father with a hearing disability. So they got the idea from that. So
Okay.
they were working with Helium before, providing notes. And then they said like, hey, what about we tackle a different problem that is actually something that we have lived through it and find a good solution to it.
Very cool. Very, very, very impressive with the map and how many nodes are out there recording, or sorry, users out there recording, and like I said, how much of the world has been mapped. Alessandro, let's come to you next, and Acurast. Maybe you can again just dive a little bit deeper into how it works, and if you wanted to share anything on the screen, feel free as well. But give us a little bit more detail about Acurast, what problem you're hoping to solve.
Yeah, sure. So similar to Daniel, we're also completely in love with mobile devices. But for a different reason. I used to be working at Credit Suisse, leading the mobile security team back in the days. And I started to understand how much security hardware is actually put into these devices. And the fact that if you wanted to create a decentralized compute network, you needed to have 2 properties that otherwise would make this impossible. And those properties were verifiability and confidentiality. Now, when it comes to verifiability, the aspect of that is that you're actually able to see that the hardware is real and verify that the hardware is real and verify that the execution is actually being done without it being tampered with. Acurast, if you go on YouTube, you will actually see many users showcasing their setups. So people are upcycling devices and then dedicating them to the network as compute nodes. This is quite unique compared to other compute networks because for us, you really need to have the actual hardware. You cannot just virtualize it. And on the other hand, the confidentiality aspect, which also boils down to this security chip that you have in your mobile device, is very, very important because otherwise you would never use a compute network if your data is just being readable by whoever is providing you with the compute. So with this as a cornerstone, we started, and then we realized that obviously mobile devices are in everybody's pocket, and also people churn through them very, very quickly, making it the perfect candidate for something that should scale beyond any other compute network available, regardless of whether it should be centralized or decentralized.
Wow.
And I mean, I can quickly just show the Acurast hub in case the audience has not seen that yet. There you basically see the activity live and today. And you see already also on the map, which is not interactive yet, but is something that will come soon, that wherever you have humans, more or less, you already have, even though it's only 65,000 devices, quote unquote, you already have people providing compute from there. And it's a very, very active network. So basically, we do get now, as we speak here, 75 heartbeats and so on and so forth, and have already more than 225 million transactions on the Canary Net. And we think that soon as the mainnet launches, obviously this will accelerate further, because then people are also able to calculate ROIs and so on and so forth. As today, you're not able to do that because you're earning Canary Net tokens.
Got it. What's a heartbeat? You said the device heartbeat.
Device heartbeat is whenever someone says, "Hey, I'm available for a compute." So everything froze. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes, I'm just going to turn your camera off, back on and on.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so a heartbeat is whenever someone says, "Hey, look, I have 8 cores, 24 gigs of RAM. I'm available for compute." That's basically what a heartbeat is, and people heartbeat every half an hour. That's how the network knows how alive the compute is and how available the compute actually is.
How powerful is the compute on a phone? I mean, like, what sort of things potentially could be, what sort of applications, for example, could you be running on decentralized compute on phones?
Well, mobile devices are quite interesting because people often underestimate their power. If you take a look at Apple alone, they make 66% of their revenues from the iPhone alone. And they invest 33 billion in R&D, which gives you a picture of how well engineered these devices are. Also, for the case of Silencio, by the way, I mean, these are perfect devices for data collection on that side. When it comes to compute, you can look at benchmarks on the CPU benchmark page, and you will find out that actually some of them are in the top 10 of performance, even faster than server CPUs. Okay,
Wow.
These are the Apple M chips, which you find in iPads, but still. So those chips are super, super powerful. Even less powerful ones are still like 20% or something less powerful than the top performers. You can run a hell lot of things on them, including large language models. So on Acurast, we integrated a acceleration piece that leverages the hardware that you have for acceleration of large language models, so that you can run large language models then completely confidentially.
Wow.
And yeah, it runs with models up to 14 billion parameters. And you can then just say, okay, I want to run one instance, I want to run 10,000, how many you want, basically. So the limitation often is the vertical limitation of the hardware. This means that a mobile device will simply not provide you 100 gigabytes of RAM, a single device. So you're limited there by about 24 gigs of RAM is the maximum that we see on the network today, but that will obviously also increase as these devices become more powerful. But yeah, if your workload is capable of being defined within those boundaries, then it will work on Acurast as well.
Wow, super interesting. I wouldn't have thought that the compute was that powerful on mobile devices, but that is super impressive. You can run LLMs. Daniel from DePIN Hub, I want to ask you, what other sectors do you see growing in DePIN? So we have noise collection, we have decentralized compute. But so think on that moment, because before I come to you, I did go to YouTube and I did look up the Acurast setups, and I wanted to share it on here because you can kind of see Alessandro, you had mentioned this. So
this is what
like
I'm
what some
mining with
people
all of my phones right now.
doing with
And now
phones.
there's
I
more
mean,
than
pretty
56,000
crazy. Like
phones
they have all
contributing
these
to
old
this
phones lying around,
network.
and
So it's
they earn money
growing
with
like.
them, or they earn rewards.
So here they are,
It's pretty cool.
unboxed.
Anyone with an
So
iPhone
anyone
can
with an
now mine
iPhone
tokens
can now
in
mine
just a few
tokens in
seconds.
just a second. So it's really really cool to see people
This
from
is
all around the world participating and doing this. So okay,
just to finish on that note, this would not be possible with servers, because ultimately you would exclude a large population of people, because they don't know how to set up a server, they don't know how to set up and manage Linux and so on and so forth.
got it. Okay. Let's go back to Daniel for that question about what other sectors you see growing.
Yeah, that's I think a hard question. There's so many DePIN projects and so many, every like week there's new angles that you never thought possible. I see a lot of growth on weather data, on energy. Energy is a big one. It's quite hard to actually tackle that. And there's some, telecom, for example, Helium really found the product market fit once they decided to become like a phone carrier in the US initially, in partnership with T-Mobile, AT&T, and others. I like mapping a lot. There's like Map Metrics, there's Hive Mapper. I don't think I would like to tell exactly one specific, because everyone has its own challenges and goals. But I mean, there's so many. Like you can go to deepinhub.io and then check the projects. You can see all of them. We even can select by category, right? If you want like energy or like compute. I think there's a lot of projects that are very like saturated market. Like for example, decentralized storage is a hard one to find, like one that's actually quite you have a quite moat in a USP comparing to the other ones. But projects, like Acurast is a very good one. Silencio as well. Silencio is it's interesting because they start with a noise. They can easily expand to other different sensors that your phone has, right? Because now they have 1 million users. They can start getting combined with other projects as well. And another thing that I really like about DePIN projects, just to touch on that, is the composability. Like for example, how can the projects itself work with each other? For example, Demo, which is like there's one device they're actually using the Helium IoT network to communicate the car data. So DePIN different projects working with each other to help the ecosystem.
Right. And you can see like how big of an opportunity this is, because I mean that's sort of like how Google Maps works, right? Is like the way that they have this live traffic information where there's traffic jams and which route is the fastest and so on, is just by looking at the GPS of the users of Google Maps. And if someone's on a freeway and they suddenly slow down, it's like, they interpret that as there's an accident or something, or a backup. So really cool. I wanted to ask about the incentives and rewards, because that is a critical piece of DePIN. It's why someone might sign up to a network. So who kind of wants to take this next one about how did you design your incentives model, and how can you ensure that it's sustainable? This is an open question to whoever wants to take it.
I mean, let me quickly talk, because I talked to so many different projects and try to understand their tokenomics, and try to understand what is the way that actually that revenue is going to revert in the tokenomics, right? Different than a lot of like DeFi and other crypto projects. DePINs we're very focused on the profit money come from outside of Acurast sells, the processing units. People actually doesn't even need to be in Web3, but they really actually want to use access to that information. Or Silencio is going to sell that data to hotels or whatever. Those guys are not crypto companies, and they're going to be paying probably in fiat, in stables, whatever. How does that money going to revert back into the crypto? A lot of projects, for example, one that's I spent a lot of time during tokens with them is GeoDnet. What they do is like they have right now around 4 million ARR in dollars, and 80% of all the revenue they buy their own token from the open market and they burn. So we call it like a DePIN flywheel. That's one way. I mean, there's 1,000 other ways, right? But like, how can you make your token sustainable? and where also your token gets sustained during the bear market. Because during the bull market, everybody's rich, everybody's super smart investor. During the bear market, a really good thing about DePIN, you are providing solutions that doesn't matter what kind of market you're in. Like everybody's still gonna need Acurast. Everybody's still gonna need the data that's Silencio, and of course, other 100 projects out there. And if those projects get those revenue and then buy back their tokens, there's some there's this buy pressure, right? That doesn't matter if you're in the bull and the bear market. So I think that's something that's quite important to see. And then whenever I talk to a project, they have that. It's okay, that's a pretty good thing.
Got it. Thanks for those insights. And
Yeah, I think that
go ahead, Daniel.
No, sorry, I thought
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I think that it's a complicated topic, right? So you need to create a system that is sustainable, and at the same time, need to work as a business, right? So the way that we designed it was we work with a point system, right? So each time that you are measuring with the app, you're getting what they call in-app coins, in which you can use in our marketplace. But then our way to continuously reward the users every month and for them to keep using the app, which, at the same time, we continue to expand our data sets, is that we do what we call these monthly DePIN lock raffles. So we are giving away a part of the of our token supply each month, in a way that every user that is participating gets rewarded. Okay, so 51% of our supply goes to the community, and yeah, we firmly believe in the DePIN flywheel as well. So what we're doing right now is to first implement burns. So there's a lot of tokens that goes on claims from rewards from the airdrop. So we are burning that, and we are allocating part of it to the community. Of course, we have a side business in which is selling the data, right? So we are expanding on the B2B side, and I think that the most important part, or what you see with our DePINs right now, is that you need to allocate a big part of the revenue flowing back into the token. So we are in the process of applying that as well. So 75% of everything, of all the revenue that Silencio is generating, from ads to data sales to premium subscriptions on our app, it's all going to flow back into buying the token and burning it. So again, for us, is a way to create an ecosystem that is sustainable, and we work more on on utility and not hype. But yeah, there's a clear trend in the market, and we are firm believers that you need to go side by side with the community, right? Which at the end is our greatest asset.
Absolutely. Alessandro, do you want to take this question as well on designing incentives, rewards, and so on?
Right. I do believe that it's super tricky, but I think we shouldn't be looking too far. And what I mean by that is, if we take a look at the most successful crypto project in existence, it's Bitcoin, right? And no, I'm not now starting the discussion on whether Bitcoin is a DePIN or not, but just looking at Web3 technologies applied, that is where we see basically the one example of basically bootstrapping a payment network and value storage network by incentivizing people. And I think, quite frankly, many of the principles that are very, very simple and in Bitcoin, you can also apply to DePINs. For instance, if you have a fixed inflation, let's say, just like Bitcoin has, you will be able to say, okay, maybe the network is not attractive for everyone, but if people leave the network, then it becomes more attractive for the ones that stay. And I think, yeah, we shouldn't be looking too far, because these models work. Also in the context of Acurast, we see that, like, it started off with people just onboarding a couple of devices. Then boom, all of a sudden we see someone that upcycled 200 devices and with cracked screens and had already an impressive setup. So the more these projects mature, the more also the community matures and professionalizes itself. And I think that's a very good thing about it, because it creates also all sorts of efficiency and more value ultimately for the service that is being provided. But yeah, ultimately, I think that's what you want to see. You want to design a system that is really capable of self-healing. And then obviously you need to make sure that all of the value generated by the system actually is being captured in form of burns. I think that's a very clean way. Yeah. The other aspect that maybe is also important to mention is that from burn alone, it won't be the only thing that is sustainable. I do believe that you also need other mechanics where people can also kind of say, okay, we want to participate in the network and be part of it for some longer time. Because I mean, look at Uber. It took Uber like 10 years for turning the very first profit. You cannot expect these networks to be profitable from day one, right? And now the question is, how do you make sure that the network does not die before it actually reaches the full potential and is delivering that ton of value that is there, right? And I think there is a couple of ways to do that, including things like staking, and then obviously also the whole burning mechanisms.
Okay, got it. So speaking of expanding communities, I think it's maybe a good time to look ahead now. Meaning, what do you think needs to happen in DePIN or in Web3 in general to lower friction and onboard more, let's call it mainstream people, more normies. So maybe the people that are using Silencio now or Acurast now are like very tech forward, you could say early adopters. Like, what needs to happen to onboard rather more people? How about you, Daniel, from DePIN Hub? Like, what do you think in general?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Apologize. My computer is a bit frozen.
No worries.
It's definitely, it's a good thing, right? Like one of the reasons why we started DePIN Hub is actually, let's onboard the next 100 million people into crypto through through DePIN. I like to say that DePIN is the gateway drug to Web3. Also, it's an easy way because it's a very, very frictionless way to get started, right? Like in projects that, for example, you have idle resources at home. You have a car that you can put like a Hive map or an 8x or some other devices. But everyone has a phone at home. Everybody has a phone. Everybody has a phone in the drawer. So both the two projects that are here can very easily onboard them. And one thing that I really like to think is like DePIN is really hard, and it's going to take, I think it's still a few years to become like mainstream. But just the fact that people can actually make some extra passive income, right? Same way that, Airbnb and Uber became so popular because, I don't necessarily need to ask permission from like my boss to get to run an Uber car or have an Airbnb. I have this idle resource, which can be a house. And around the world, like there's so many places that if you make $10 to $100 extra per month, can be a life-changing money, right? Like, of course, if you're in New York, that's like 5 coffees basically. But if you live in some other places in the world, that actually can really elevate these people's like quality of life, and that's just going to become because of crypto. And then another thing that happens, like, okay, we, for example, when we started with Helium in 2020, we deployed like 150 devices. Everyone that they put a device on their home, we teach them how to create a Binance account. And a lot of those people became like, Web3 like geeks after that. They're like, oh, actually can make some money from this. And then you start learning about new things. It's a long process, but I think, like more projects coming, more projects teaching. Like there's something that we spend a lot of time on DePIN Hubs, like how can we onboard, make it very, very simple for people to understand what this is. And yeah, just play around. Everybody has a phone. Like how many people right now have 5 different DePINs running on their phones? It's a slow process, but we're gonna get there.
It sounds like it's just awareness, really, because there's really not, if you have an old phone lying around, or if you are taking walks out in public, there really is no reason why you shouldn't be earning from it, right? And it's interesting what you said about sort of the gig economy and how, a decade ago, someone might have extra time on their hands and never thought that they could just, make a few pickup and drop offs with an Uber and earn some extra cash. So sounds like an awareness thing. Moving forward, looking like 2 to 3 years out into the future, where do you think DePIN is going? And is there possibly any intersection with AI or the more connected devices, so like the Internet of Things, IoT? I mean, anyone have any interesting thesis about where this whole space is going? Alessandro or Daniel?
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to say something, Daniel. But from my side, it's crystal clear that what blockchains and Web3 protocols do very, very well is they offer a very open and transparent API. So this means that ultimately all of these AI agents will prefer to be working with Web3 technologies rather than ever-changing APIs that are being locked from one day to the other, right? And I think this is where the composability will also play a huge role. And this is also where we'll be seeing a massive benefit, where it's not just additive, but even a multiplication of the projects being kind of intermingled with each other. And I think AI will do a perfect job at abstracting away all of the details of how to really interact with one another, because that's what these LLMs do very, very well. And ultimately find for you as a human the perfect service that you were looking for, or solve a problem for you. If that is to host a website for your wedding, on Acurast, it will just do that and even order the cake for you on another on another service, right? I think that's where ultimately DePIN will start to shine, just like, I mean, other cases are getting the data from Silencio and starting to, in a confidential way, monetize it through Acurast, or offer compute over it. Like, all these things will happen, and I'm really excited about it. And maybe on this note, Silencio as well as Acurast as well as DePIN Hub are all members of the DePIN Association, which I think is exactly pushing for this vision of composability and interoperability. Because let's be honest here, like, Web3 needs this, and we need to work together on this.
Yeah, I can complement here. So I think that, so it's not like DePIN supports AI. It's like there's a fundamental rebalance in the power, right? Because we are decentralizing the infrastructure scale. And for example, there's a need for data, right? So Silencio can rapidly help, gather the data in an ethical and in a faster way without the need of, big infrastructure, right? I think that as well, the ability to work with other DePINs and the ability to, put AI in the middle it's gonna be critical over the next few years, right? So yeah, on our side, we're working on SDK integrations. We're scaling to make the data more accessible and faster. And yeah, I think that data is the new oil, and we are in the intersection for it for over the next few years.
Data is the new oil. I actually like that. I've heard that around. It is true, especially with AI and LLMs, like all of the data that needs to be input into those training models and so on. So super interesting. I did want to, because someone mentioned, I think it was you, Alessandro, that you guys are part of was it the DePIN Association? I'm curious,
Yeah.
if you could maybe just touch on that. And for those people that are maybe curious about Web3, curious about DePIN, and they want to get more involved, they want to maybe launch their own project, they want to learn what's possible to be built with DePIN. Can you tell us a bit about how they can get involved? Or maybe Daniel
So
from DePIN Hub.
I'm the chosen one. I think
I'll go to
Daniel,
Daniel because if you want to tell us about the DePIN Association, or who was it that mentioned it?
It was Alessandro,
Alessandro?
but I can talk about that
Please
as
do.
well. Yeah. Now, the DePIN Association is like, there's a lot of DePIN companies and founders and project members that wanted to try, how can we work together and try to grow this ecosystem, right? I think one thing that I really like about DePIN in general, there's like a lot of projects tackling the same, like a similar market, but and then everybody's trying to go through like a tiny market. Like we're going to like a massive market, but we're still very small, right? Like for example, there, let's say 3 DePIN projects going towards the telecom network. The telecom network is huge, so there's no point on like 3 little ants trying to fight. They should just work together to actually get against the Goliaths themselves. So the idea of the DePIN Association is like, how can we get all these projects that are working like separated to combine, and then figure out how, let's build standards, let's find ways to work together and actually align incentives that everybody grows and the whole ecosystem grow with one goal to like make DePIN great. Okay. I wouldn't say again.
Very cool. I think
I agree with that. Sorry.
Yeah, Daniel. Did you have something? Did you want to add on to that?
No, I was just going to say that, look, there's so many industries to tap, and that there are so many niche right now, and DePIN is just getting started. And yeah, the ability to become part of a ecosystem in which the projects can actively work together, collaborate, and make it bigger, I think is fundamentally crucial for the for the evolution of Web3.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone has a phone in their pocket at all times, so there's so much data that can be harvested. We are coming up on time, so I wanted to give each of you an opportunity to share any closing thoughts, any ideas you want to leave with our viewers. And while you're kind of thinking about that, I did just want to encourage all of our viewers to follow these great projects. So we have Acurast on X/Twitter. Please give them a follow. Silencio Network as well. And last but not least, we have Daniel and his project Hotspotty. So please do give all these projects a follow if you want to stay up to date. You want to hear the latest about them and how you can get involved. And let's go into closing thoughts now. Who wants to start it off?
I can. So we touched a little bit on the future, but what I think ultimately this audience should bring home is that we went through a couple of identity crises in Web3. And I do believe that now DePIN really is bringing a lot of those values back, because it's less about how can one project extract value from somebody else or do this casino-like games, right? And it's really more about going back to the roots and how can we actually solve problems applying software coordinating these humans. And this is what attracts me mostly about into the space. And I find again these values in the DePIN community, and that's ultimately what I think people should think about when they hear DePIN. The realness factor of it really matters, and bringing back those values of Web3 and decentralizations.
I love it. It's not, forget the meme coin casino. Like DePIN is solving real world issues, real world problems, and it's a true use case. As that's kind of how we open the conversation, right? It's like I was saying, DePIN is, I think, one of the true use cases of Web3 and blockchain. Daniel from Silencio, let's go to you next on your, closing thoughts, where you want to leave our viewers with.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the majority of the people that have joined Web3 or have been long enough in the space is because you are always looking for that vertical that is going to help you, get to mainstream adoption and make, Web3 accessible for everyone. I think that, DePIN, yeah, it's tackling that, it's going back to fundamentals, and is, trying to transition from, the past few years that we have seen these memes and crime season that really, I think, destroy the space. I think that, putting ethical values at first, community, and building real products that are going to bring mainstream adoption is the way to go. And yeah, that's why I'm here. And that's why we are building what we're building at Silencio. Yeah.
That's great to hear, because that is really truly the ethos of the Polkadot ecosystem as well. True decentralization, resilience, standing up for the values of Web3. That's what we really believe in the Polkadot community. So Daniel from DePIN Hub.
Yeah. No, I would say I've been around cryptos for many years, since like when there was only, let's say, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Feathercoin that doesn't exist anymore. And it was actually thanks to DePIN, this idea of decentralized infrastructure, that I decided to actually move all in and full time into crypto. I'm a hardware engineer. I've been working with like backend of everything. I do think that DePIN is hard. Like it takes a lot of time to build a proper project, but also because people building DePINs are actually trying to build real products. Also, this narrative is the ones that people in the governments are using to defend crypto, right? Like when someone goes like, okay, crypto is a casino, it's like a bunch of meme coins. Meme coins, remember, you are 100% or like 90% exit liquidity. In DePIN, we're actually trying to build something much bigger than that. We're trying to build something that actually adds value and makes the world a better place, more decentralized. And also people can participate into this infrastructure, be like a shareholder of a company instead of you just being utilizing that service, right? And that's something that we're spending a lot of time on DePIN Hub, trying to like get the projects together, teach. We have an academy section that we teach about like all the sections about crypto and focus on DePIN. We're also running like a node as a service platform for people who get a node and don't want to get to the nerdy part to deploy them. So we're always like looking, how can we actually help this whole ecosystem grow? And every day we talk to so many projects, and I get more and more excited about DePIN and less excited about the casino of crypto. And I think that's one reason why we're here, to try to, make this crypto be like DePIN be one of the main sections of Web3.
Got it. I mean, I was already excited about DePIN prior to this conversation, and now, definitely more excited afterwards, hearing about the cool projects you guys are working on, and seeing all of those users around the world for Silencio, and seeing those setups on YouTube of how people are utilizing old phones to earn rewards and so on. So I do want to give a huge thank you to Daniel from Silencio, Daniel from DePIN Hub, and Alessandro from Acurast. For all of our viewers, you can follow Acurast at Acurast on Twitter, at Silencio Network on Twitter, and Daniel is at HotSpotty on Twitter. So guys, thank you so much, and let's do it again soon.